Dimensional analysis. Now in science, we measure lots of things and we include units. For example, if we measure distance, we could measure it in inches or feet or miles. But there are lots of styles of measurement. And how do you convert between one and the other? For example, I have a stick here, and it shows inches, and so that is 12 inches, also known as a foot. But what is that in centimeters, the metric system? That's kind of difficult. Actually, if I flip it over, I have a meter stick, and you'll see that it's about 30 centimeters. So we can use this process called dimensional analysis to figure it out. Now, we all know that 12 inches is 1 foot, but what if I were to say 47 inches? How many feet is that? We can use dimensional analysis. Let's check it out. Dimensional analysis. Now, dimensional analysis is a mathematical technique that allows us to really convert units from one form to another. Now, it's fairly easy to convert metric measurements into each other. They're multiples of 10. But in the imperial system, things with like feet and miles, sometimes that gets a little bit difficult. And so we use this technique called dimensional analysis. So the first thing is, in this problem, how many feet are in 2.1 miles? There's some information that's given to us. The fact that we have 2.1 miles. That's given. So let's put that on the left. Now, I need some information that's going to help me get from this unit of miles into this unit of feet. Now, if you look on the blue card of conversion factors, down near the bottom in the middle, there's a column that says length. And I think we'll find that 1 mile is equal to 5,280 feet, which is alright. But in dimensional analysis, we want a conversion factor or a ratio. So conversion factor. And those things are on top of each other. So there's a numerator and a denominator. So, okay, we can write this as a ratio. We can write it as 1 mile over 5,280 feet. Or, you know what, we can actually flip this number, take the inverse of it, and it means exactly the same thing. 5,280 feet over 1 mile. So in order to do dimensional analysis, I do what's called the field goals. Let's put a line here. We're going to put a ratio or conversion factor here. Right? And the question is, do I want this ratio or this ratio here? Now, the way in which I pick is I take a look at what unit I want to eventually cancel out. And I ensure that my ratio has the unit in the opposite side. So look at, technically this is over 1. So miles is in the numerator here. So I want to pick the ratio that has the denominator, miles in the denominator, and that's this one. So I'm going to put it right there. I'm going to say that 5,280 feet over 1 mile. Right? And the reason that I do that again, let me remind you, is I want to cancel miles here with miles here, leaving me with what? Feet, which is what I'm looking for anyway. So if I bring my unit over here, feet, and now it simply becomes a mathematical problem. So get out your handy dandy calculators. So in order to complete the mathematics here, I simply get out my calculator and I take whatever number is on the top and multiply it by whatever number is on the top of the first ratio times whatever number is on the top of the second ratio, and so on and so on and so on. So in this case I have 2.1 and multiply it by 5,280, and then I hit enter or equals. Now I know that dividing by 1 is kind of redundant, but let's just get used to the format. So I'm going to divide that answer by 1. And that gives me my solution, which is 11,088 feet. Now, does that make sense? Are miles very big and feet very small? So I'm going to need a lot of feet in order to encompass those such a big measurement. So at least this number makes sense to me. I'm going to circle it to indicate that I believe that that is the correct answer. Let's try another one. How many centimeters are in 4.289 yards? Now the question becomes, what information is given to me? Now I know that 4.89 yards is given to me, and centimeters is what I eventually want everything to be in. So here we go. I need to identify some conversion factors. Alright? So once again, if I go to my blue card, I'm looking for some way of going from yards to something one step closer to centimeters. Can you find anything on the blue card? Any ratio that's going to help me put up my field goals? Let's identify. Well, look, I found that 1 meter is equal to 1.094 yards. And I could rewrite that as 1.094 yards is 1 meter. The question is, which one of these ratios am I going to want so that I can cancel out yards? If you said this one, because it's got yards on the bottom, you'd be correct. So I'm going to put 1 meter over 1.094 yards. That allows me to cancel. But I'm not quite in units that I want yet. I'm in centimeters, but I'm in meters. Is there another ratio that's going to help me? This is where we move into the metric system. Centi means 100. So I need 100 centimeters is the equivalent of 1 meter. Or I could write it, 1 meter is the equivalent of 100 centimeters. Which one of these ratios am I going to want in order to get rid of the meters this time? Well, if you said this one, because it's got meters on bottom and there's meters here, I'd agree with you. Okay, so inside the next field goal, we're going to have 100 centimeters over 1 meter. And now I can cancel the units, and leaving me with the units that I eventually want. Good. Now, can you figure out the mathematics? What numbers I'd punch in my calculator in order to complete this? Alright, I'm going to start with my handy dandy calculator here in order to do the mathematics. And I'm going to start with 4.89, that's the number of yards that we have. And I'm going to multiply by the numerator of the first ratio that I have. Now I know that multiplying by 1 is kind of redundant, but let's get in the habit of doing that. And then I'm going to multiply by the numerator of the second ratio in which I have. And in this case it's 100, so I'm going to multiply by 100, and then I'm going to hit the equals sign. To deal with the numerators, I simply take that answer, 489, and I'm going to divide by the denominator of my first ratio, 1.094, and then I'm going to, and this is critical, divide by the numerator of the next number. Now I know dividing by 1 is kind of redundant, but once again let's get in the habit of it. When I hit enter, I get, in this case, 446.983. 983 centimeters. Now, does that make sense? Are yards very big measurements and centimeters very small measurements, so I need a lot of centimeters? Yeah, at least it's going in the right direction. So I'm going to circle it so that Mr. Fay knows what answer I want to be marked. Okay, at this point, what about your softball? How many days is 2614598 seconds? Now I've given you a hint. Please pause the tape and see if you can solve this one on your own. Okay, welcome back. Let's see what we can do here. So, on the left hand side, some information that I've been given is 2614598. Ooh, what are you going to say? Naked numbers. Dimensional analysis, it's critical that you keep the units involved. Now, I don't know if you can find ratios on the blue card, but do you know something about seconds and days? A ratio that's going to help us get seconds and days? Like, for example, how many seconds are in 1 minute? 60, right? And remember, what can I do to this? I can flip it, or I could say 1 minute is 60 seconds. So now I'm kind of in minutes. Is there any more ratios I could think about? Like, for example, how many minutes are in 1 hour? Well, there's 60 minutes in 1 hour. Or I could write it 1 hour, there are 60 minutes. Or I could take, and then finally the last ratio, hey, I'm in hours. How many hours are in a day? 24. Or I could write 1 day is 24 hours. Right? So I think I have everything that I need to do. What's the first step? Field goal. So, which one of these ratios am I going to want to be able to cancel seconds here? Did you say this one? Because look at seconds is on bottom. I'm going to put this ratio here. 1 minute over 60 seconds. Alright, so now I can cancel. What's the next ratio I want? Well, look, I'm dealing with minutes here. So this one probably, right? So 1 hour, 60 minutes. And that allows me to cancel. Okay, what's next? Oh, look at hours is on bottom here. Right? 1 day over 24 hours. That allows me to cancel. Hey, am I in the units that I want now? Yeah, days. So, now, get out our calculator, hit clear, let's do some math. 2614598 times the first digit up here, 1, times the first digit up here, 1, times the first digit up here, 1, and then I hit the enter sign. Now I'm going to take that number and I'm going to divide by 60 seconds, and then once again divide by the numerator of the second ratio, 60 minutes, and then divide by the numerator of the third ratio to give me a grand total of 30.26. 30.26. Yep. Naked number. What's the units? Days. Good job.